Have you ever felt like your brain had 50 tabs open at the same time and somehow every single one of them was demanding your attention? That was me. Over the past couple weeks, I accidentally stepped away from the podcast without meaning to. But behind the scenes, I had reached a wall with the mental load of running, becoming natural, and managing family life and trying to get my life organized and a good system. In this episode, I'm sharing where I've been, how AI unexpectedly became the one tool for creating breathing room, and what God has been teaching me about peace, purpose, and doing things in order.
Do you ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited that you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, a mom, and a wife with a strong faith, and for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you're ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you.
Hello, Becoming Natural fans. It is Penny, and I am sure you have been wondering where I've been. Actually, maybe nobody's noticed that I have missed the last couple weeks, but I did hint at it at the last episode, and I feel like I owe you an explanation, even if you haven't even noticed that I've been missing. And it might just be me that's worried about my disappearance. I know a lot of podcasters actually break for the summer, but that was never my intention. And it still isn't. But 3 weeks without an episode isn't like me. And I thought about just kind of quietly showing up with a new episode and pretending like nothing ever happened. But that feels a little odd to me. And I'm just going to go behind the scenes a little bit about what's been going on here. So today is not our normal science deep dive into natural health conversation as it typically goes, but it is more about life application, I guess, with a little sprinkle of science, and we can call it STEM, because there's something that I am so excited about and something that is really significant that's been happening behind the scenes here at Becoming Natural. I've decided to name my office. I know, sometimes Becoming Natural sounds a little bit too perfect for how I operate. Obviously, it's our goal, and it's always good to have a great goal. But behind the scenes, I'm calling it the pod quarters, the Office of Unsolicited Advice, because really that's what it is. But a few months ago, I realized that I couldn't keep doing the things at Becoming Natural the way that I had been doing them. I am a one-woman show, and I have no plans to do it otherwise. So if you've been with me for any amount of time, you know that I am not a fan of social media. I pretty much gave it up entirely. Ironically, not for your typical reasons, because I'm not a scroller. That never bothered me much, except if a friend would send me a dog video, which leads to more dog videos. And before I know it, I'd spent an hour watching dog videos. My gosh, I love dog videos. But it was a time suck for me, and I had to let it go, even if it was darling dog videos. So I took the social apps off my phone, and that's been glorious. So I only dipped my toe into podcasting. I've kind of told this story before with a little bit of fear, a little bit of excitement, because I heard a podcaster say once that with podcasting, you didn't have to use social media. Of course, that immediately caught my attention. And I knew that I still had a story to tell that could help other people. And I had partially struck out with my dreams of writing a book. I had my eyes set on a book for a long time that went south when I started having a lot of anxiety and ultimately was diagnosed with PTSD when I tried to get my story of sickness, even followed by survival and miracles on paper. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't write no matter how hard I tried without extreme anxiety. So you need to check out, I think it's episode 3 about getting EMDR therapy, which was amazing. And I still couldn't bring myself to write, and I love writing. So I did check the writing goal off my list when I ultimately was very fortunate to write a chapter in an anthology devotional. It was a complete God moment, how it all unfolded, and I was invited to be a part of this book. And all I had to do was whittle down what I had already written. I survived. And that book was a Barnes& and Noble bestseller, might I add, only a chapter that I wrote, but it felt so good. I added Amazon author and Barnes& and Noble bestselling author to my list, and that took the place of my needing to write a book for now, anyway. So, back to when I heard that podcaster say I could do a podcast and not have to do any social media, and I could be behind a mic without video. I didn't have to shower or do makeup or my hair. I was intrigued. I knew I still had a wonderful story in me, mostly because my hometown minister told me that I really needed to share it. So his voice motivated me. I just always assumed that telling your story was in a book form, but I still didn't feel like I had totally accomplished that mission. So when that vision changed and I didn't really do the entire book like I thought I wanted to, I took a breath and I threw my hat into the ring with podcasting. I didn't have to show up in people's feeds when they had no interest in what I had to say. I hated that. People could find me because they were interested in what I was babbling about because podcasts use SEO. It was completely on a whim, and I fell in love with it almost instantly. And it was really fun to watch my followers and my listeners grow. If you really want to get to brass tacks, it was motivating that people actually were interested in what I was talking about. So my life and my story is not singular. We are all in the trenches in one form or the other. And if you know me, I love to talk. I love science. And Lord have mercy, I have been through it all. I am trained in the medical model as an occupational therapist. I am a past pharmaceutical rep. I experienced every kind of surgery, drug, test, and symptom surviving Crohn's disease. I love to read. I love to research how I can help my body to do better without the piles of medications and surgeries. And I have a strong faith. So at the same time, despite all of that, I still love to have a Coke and a good burger. Nothing in my life is extreme, and I really like it that way. So nothing here is perfect, nor do I ever want to portray that. I absolutely love my family. I have a wonderful family, but yeah, my husband and I will argue. I have 3 adorable, handsome sons that some days I want to string by their toenails, and some days I just sneak into their stinky, dirty rooms and sit with them while they sleep and just pray over them and just envision their futures. Initially, by doing this podcast, I thought that I would be talking about Crohn's, but I found that my true passion is not really talking about Crohn's, but sharing how I have grown over the years with my body and learning how to treat my body as a mom, as a wife, as a Christian, and to share how clueless I was to the things that were potentially hurting me already when I had a broken body. But I was entirely too overwhelmed to address them or to even know where to begin. I realized that Crohn's was actually not my passion, but it was in my tool belt. It wasn't exactly my passion to speak just to people who had Crohn's. But Crohn's is just a battle, and we all face battles. We all have our own battles that we're facing, big or small. It's still a battle, how it affects you. And my target, I realized, was coming into view. As I do with most things, I dove in headfirst, and I spent so much time reading and writing and continuing to learn about podcasting and talking, and I love all of those things. But after a while, the admin things, the details that go along with the producing a podcast were the menial things I was trying to avoid, and it took away time from my family or for my family, and I began to procrastinate on the tedious tasks. I had sticky notes by my bed, in my purse, in my car, at my desk. I looked around my house and there were stacks of papers to read by my bed, at my desk, in the den, studies I had earmarked, books that I started reading, notes I had made on one book notebook after another. I made really good attempts to go back to a paper planner, which I used to be really good at, and, about 3 pages in, and then they were blank. So one day it hit me that I cannot keep living like this. I have all this great information, and it's not being used well. It's not helping anyone. It's not even helping me. I do have a passion for helping people, coupled with a love for research and medicine, and overlaying all of that with my faith and a lifetime struggle with Crohn's. And on top of that, a miraculous story of survival. So it was all parked in a brain that was overcrowded and stacks of paper that I was never going to have time to read. I finally admitted that. And don't get me wrong, like nothing in my life was falling apart. I was in heaven. I loved my life. I woke up, I read, I researched, I wrote, I got to go down rabbit holes. I got to record and then repeat. But I realized with my wall of books pertaining to medicine and physiology and a growing category of plants, I was quickly turning into the old professor with a dusty library and piles of great information I would never find when I needed it. I had to figure out a way to change. I had no system. I dove into this whole podcasting thing on a whim, never knowing what the long-term goal was because I never knew there was a long term. I had no order. So I am by nature an organized person, and no one no one would believe that now. I love filing, I love organizing. I just could never find my file now. And I used to organize when I was little. My sock drawer was in Roy G. Biv order, if you know what Roy G. Biv is: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. I mean, I organized for fun. I blame my loss of organization a little bit on splitting my brain 3 times, having 3 kiddos, being involved in a house renovation that will never be complete. And I truly know that I lost a little bit of my sanity when I was diagnosed with PTSD. I have to really work to treat my brain every couple years now and then to not let that anxiety creep in and take over. So I started, I had 15 fabulous projects going, probably projects I wanted to finish, ideas I had for my website, a ministry I wanted to build, things that God had been teaching me, things I knew would help somebody else. I know that what I went through can help other people. I wasn't lacking ideas at all. I was exploding with energy while drowning in my lack of systemizing my flow. And I already joke that I live in organized chaos with 3 boys and 2 dogs, one of them being a new puppy, and my husband. And I embrace the mess, I assure you. I embrace that my house is lived in and not perfect. But after a while, my house was messy, my desk wasn't organized, and I couldn't find the phone that I was talking on. We've been there. I knew that I had to find a system because my brain could not operate without order. And I had been teasing myself because I was limping along for several years trying to hold it all together, and my brain was not operating with a full load of bricks, as you might say. My life was making the same decision over and over because I couldn't remember what I decided yesterday or an hour ago for that matter. I opened my laptop and spent 20 minutes trying to remember what I was working on, and then an email would pop up. And then I started filtering through the 10,000 emails that I have. Then I would spend 30 minutes. Okay, I'll just unsubscribe from 30 emails that somehow subscribed me to 10 more lists for every unsubscribe, which led me to, oh, I need to respond to the school with that email about a volunteer opportunity. And then, oh, I need to balance the budget because I saw a bill come through. So if you remember the book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, my mother-in-law tells me all the time that I'm giving a mouse a cookie. I have one fat mouse because I give him lots and lots of cookies. I always had unfinished thoughts in my head, to which my husband made fun of me when I couldn't complete a sentence. I literally could not get the words out. Was I having a midlife crisis? Was my brain broken? This could not be me for the rest of my life. I used to be so pulled together, and I'm not anymore. And I know that I am not alone. We are all carrying the grocery list, the appointments, the recipes, the medications, the birthdays, including all the in laws as well, the bills in our school schedules, work responsibilities, church commitments. And then my husband would walk in the door and innocently, very innocently, ask me what I did today. And oh my gosh, my hackles would go up. I worked on my computer, is what I would say, because everything in the world that we do is on the computer, including the emails, the school signups, balancing the budget, checking the bank, making sure everybody's things are input in the calendar. I was distracted by merging my personal life and my work on one computer, and I felt like I was on my computer all the time, and my family told me so. But yet I didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything. I always wondered, why was I so exhausted when all I did was sit on my computer? I really started to make major changes, which I've talked about, a little bit in the past in my life, to reduce that cognitive load and the decisions because I was losing myself. I turned off my notifications on my laptop at the suggestion of my husband, who is now the most irritated when I don't know that he texted me because I didn't get that notification. But that might be one of the best tiny changes that I made. No distractions when I'm working. I also took social media off my phone. Amazing. Yet, no more notifications. I tried to time block my days as best as I could. I'm not really good at time blocking, but then a kid would call and would need something at school or need to talk. I even created a cleaning schedule so I could clean just a little bit at a time over the course of a week and always have a clean house. And that actually was working out pretty well until I had two college boys come home for the summer and dump all of their stuff all over my house. And I am not complaining because I absolutely love it when there is a fleet of vehicles in my driveway because that means all of my people are home. It's all very comical. It's all very lighthearted, but I was a little worried about my own sanity and the fact that I got overwhelmed so easily, and I could not knock out 100 things in a day like I used to be able to do. And it was really concerning enough that I was really praying through all of this, and I finally realized I kept coming back to my own advice. God has a sense of humor that way, right? That God is not the author of confusion. God does not create chaos. This was all my own doing. I had to figure out a way to pull it all together. Now, that doesn't mean that everything is perfect and everything is neat and tidy over here, and I am okay with that. I really am. It also doesn't mean that my house is spotless or that my schedule is perfect yet, working towards it, but we are all a work in progress. And I am in a constant state of what I would say becoming natural. Ba-dum-bum. But what I learned while creating podcasts for you, and we all know they are as much for me as they are for you, that the Lord really cares about peace and rest much more than I ever gave it credit. I never rested. I never found peace in my life, and I was not practicing what I preached. The peace part was really hard for me, the rest, being still. I was spending so much energy managing the chaos that I had very little energy left to enjoy the life or the gifts that God had given me, and I was not prioritizing my time to spend it in the Word, in prayer, in the quiet, outside, soaking up the sun, enjoying life. So one night, a few months ago, my husband was building models for his work with ChatGPT, and I flippantly asked if he could help me with my analytics. I manually track my podcast views and followers and all the things by hand every single month. And of course, he said he could, and he showed me basic use of ChatGPT. I was not good. I knew nothing. I quickly found out as a newbie to AI that my limitation to AI was not knowing what I could ask it to do. I didn't know how to talk to it. And when I did ask it questions, I thought the responses were terrible. I wasn't impressed at all. Why in the world did people like ChatGPT? I very much take joy in writing my own episodes because I do the research. I enjoy that the most. So that wasn't interesting to me with chat. But after a week attempt at organizing my analytics, I asked it if it could write the podcast summary for my show notes. And knowing that podcasts were found based on search engine optimization, which is SEO, I bought a book, which I know sounds very comical now that I know how to use chat, about using chat for SEO so that my show note summary would be a good summary. Literally, that's how I began. And slowly, I learned and I asked questions and I studied, ultimately creating a system designed to save me time in the long run. But I've had so much fun learning what I can do with chat that my little write my own show notes for my podcast from my weekly research paper became a robust, constantly expanding operating system with forks here and there and subsystems and automations, words I don't even know what they're doing, because I am building something to save time. I am going all in. There is no halfway on this. So I started building something that I desperately needed, typing in ideal scenarios, saying, can you do this? Can you do that? Kind of creating a dream outcome. And it says yes to almost everything. So automate this or post that. My husband actually gave me a double take when I told him one time when he was working on code that he really should be using Codex. Now, I am no pro here. I don't know all AI systems, but I told him he should be using Codex for his algorithms that he was writing. And the next day, he came back and he's like, you know, the quants at work use Codex? And he's like, how did you know that? It's because I became obsessed and it was fun. I, of course, dive in hard when I'm researching. So I was learning something new. I was not only learning how to help my business move more efficiently. Did you know that you can tell chat to remind you to do things? And on top of that, then you can ask it if it could send you that reminder in an email. I mean, that blew my mind. On top of all of those things, I was building efficiency into my life. So now my analytics can auto check on the right day and update my dashboard among 1,000 other things that I keep dreaming up. So on the personal front, I even created a monthly gardening calendar. We have finished a renovation. We've done a lot of planting, and there's things I needed to remember to do in the first couple of years with my plants. So now I know when to cut back what in my yard, at what time of year. It's a monthly guide. I am all into this whole Chat GPT thing. It's amazing. So I started building a better way to manage my own life and becoming natural, and it is so freaking exciting. I am not done. And probably not close to done. And I have logged hours and hours and hours and months of hours learning the hard way a lot of times. But even though chat is notoriously, and if you're not a chat user, it is notoriously overly complimentary. When you use it, it makes you feel like you're so smart. But it continues to tell me that I have reached a level in my system that I'm bringing to life that is more impressive than just a little summary and analytics model. It is what professionals design for business clients. So I'll take it. I'll take the compliments, even if it's just stroking my ego a little bit. But I have created a space where my research lives. This is what I've been doing, where my episode ideas don't disappear, and I can save all those sticky notes into organized files, waiting for their turn to be studied. A file to save the life lessons that I jot down and find at the bottom of my purse. A place where I don't have to rely on my brain to remember everything, because this brain was fried. But I am telling you, I can see the light. I am reducing the cognitive load, and I am feeling freer every day. My brain is working better and better as I let go of all the crazy that's going on in my head. So around here, we talk a lot about inflammation of our body from food, from stress, but all I could think about is that my schedule is inflamed. My calendar, my home, my brain with half thoughts and unfinished to-dos on my list. There's a meme out there about your brain having 50 browser tabs open all at once. That is 100% me, and probably 100% you too. Eventually, the whole system gets completely bogged down because there's too many tabs open. And I just throw my hands in the air and I say, my decision maker is done. It's over. It's closed. It's done for the day. I don't think that we were created to carry that kind of mental weight every day. I think this is a flaw in the way that we are living. None of us were. That is why I hear from so many of my friends that their brains are not firing like they used to. So as big as the system is becoming and as cool as it really is, and I got to figure out a way to show it to you, to everybody whenever I finish with it. I didn't build it to do more. I started it so I could carry less, to clear my head of the mental clutter, to do less searching, less remembering, and my word to stop redoing the same thing over and over because I couldn't remember where I was. Because every minute I spend hunting for a note or a file is a minute that I am not spending with my family or doing something for my family, which I really want to be better at doing. I'm not growing in my faith if I'm looking for a file that I misplaced or sitting on the porch and actually listening to the birds and sitting in the sun and appreciating nature, or doing what I love by simply researching and reading and writing for becoming natural. I don't want my life to be efficient as much as I want to be available for what actually matters in my life. With my half brain at times, I wasn't available. I literally needed a Control Alt Delete kind of a reset in my life. All that to say, soon, very soon, pieces of what I have been building will become things that I can share, and I'm so excited to share them. Maybe as automated checklists or planners, definitely the automation systems that help another overwhelmed mom breathe a little bit easier. Perhaps I can share the tools that save someone hours every week. But this started because I needed help. I needed to get my act in gear and figure out how to pull myself up by the bootstraps and not only live, but embrace the wonderful, healthy second chance at life that I have been given, which I celebrated July 17th. I missed it, but that was my discharge date from the hospital in 2015. I have a feeling that I am not the only one that is in my position. And if I am, so be it. I'm willing to admit it. But I always, of course, come back to scripture, and 1 Corinthians 14:40 says, "Let all things be done decently and in order." This verse is often quoted by people when they're talking about organization, but in its original context, can you imagine Paul with file folders? That's funny. In its original context, Paul was actually addressing something much deeper than keeping a tidy church bulletin. The church in Corinth was passionate about their spiritual gifts, and so people were using their spiritual gifts. They were speaking in tongues or prophesying or praying or teaching, but everyone seemed to be doing it all at once. And instead of pointing people to Christ, their gatherings had become chaotic. It was total chaos because everybody was doing everything all at one time. And I think about that all the time in my house. It's just, everything at once. Earlier in Corinthians in 14:33, Paul says, "For God is not a God of confusion, but of peace." As I've been working through the Bible in a year, I think I've said that I'm doing the Bible recap, I'm learning to really go back to the root of the words in Hebrew or Greek, which is really fascinating to understand what was truly meant or being imparted with certain words. And what does the word in order mean? So let all things be done decently and in order. The Greek word is rooted in taxis, T-A-X-I-S, and it means proper arrangement, orderly sequence, intentional structure, appointed order. It's actually a military term in some settings because soldiers lined up with purpose rather than being scattered in confusion. So Paul isn't saying that everything has to be rigid. He's saying that everything should have purpose. This verse reveals something that I think is very important and valuable about God's nature. He created, which we have talked about, that I have learned everything, that He created the seasons, He created gravity, He created the stars, He created our human body, a miracle of itself. He created all these ecosystems that function together. And none of them function through chaos. Creation is breathtaking because there is incredible and intentional design underneath massive amounts of work, massive excellence that reveals itself with such incredible ease. I want to be that, and I am not that. So I heard this illustration one time and I never forgot it. But if you think of an orchestra, before the performance, it sounds really chaotic because they're all down there in the pit warming up, different instruments, strumming, strolling, all different notes. I actually really like that sound. But then when the conductor comes, he stands up and he lifts the baton, everything goes silent. And those same musicians that were all different directions and nothing really sounded like it fit together, they don't become less gifted. They become unified and they become orderly. So order doesn't remove your creativity. It actually allows beauty to emerge. A symphony, the sunrise and sunset, spring always bringing new life. So I had to look deep in myself and ask, does my life reflect God's peace or constant chaos? As I laughed about living in organized chaos, am I making decisions intentionally, or am I living in a life of just reacting to what is around me? Are my words being used to build people up, which is what I would love to be able to say that I do? And do my gifts serve others, or am I not doing a good job of using them purposefully? So order isn't valuable because everything has to be perfect. It's valuable because its thoughtful structure can reduce confusion and make it easier for people to flourish. God is remarkably creative, yet profoundly orderly. Just look outside. Just look at the stars. Everything has perfect order. So when we bring order into our lives, not to be controlling, but to serve and to serve people well, we begin to reflect something of His character through our character. And that blew me away. I really had to sit in those thoughts and reread that and listen to that multiple times. Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men." We hear this a lot. I think about that when I'm scrubbing the floors. Doing things decently and in order is one way our work, our worship, and even our just ordinary routines like scrubbing the floors or doing the dishes can become an act of honoring God. It reveals something about God's heart. He is a God of peace, of purpose, of order, not because He loves rules, but because He loves His people. He loves you and He loves me. He knows what constant confusion does to weary hearts. And oh, my Lanta, how my heart was so weary. And just look how I tied AI into the blessings in my life and to the Lord, right? If you can use AI intentionally and carefully, I think it's an incredible tool in our tool belts, but always with caution and always, I kind of say cynically, with one eye open. So if you've been wondering where I've been building breathing room and gaining margin in the process, but it has been so much fun. But man, the hours it has taken to create, but it has all been devoted to becoming natural. I am so excited about a foundation that's going to last and one that allows me to show up here every week with more consistency, more creativity, more peace and order. And actually, it's going to allow me the room to do bigger and better things with becoming natural, which absolutely it makes me just smile. I'm so excited. So stepping away for a few weeks was never intentional, and it wasn't about not having time or the desire. I got carried away creating a healthier way to serve for years instead of burning out in a few months over the tasks that I can't stand. Basically, I don't enjoy them. And that is what excites me the most. So maybe you don't need to organize your whole life this week. Maybe you are not living in chaos like me. Maybe you are systematic, and I really, really admire you for that. You might have it all together way more than I do, but someone out there doesn't. Someone out there is like me. We all have the struggle. But I bet it's safe to suggest to anyone to just take one commitment off your plate, one source of unnecessary stress. Healing our bodies doesn't always begin with adding anything to our life, healing begins by creating space, possibly, for more peace, to enjoy and to relax. So thank you in advance for giving me the grace to step away for a little bit. Thank you for coming back, for not giving up on me or becoming natural, because I have huge plans that are already in the process of coming to life. I have missed these conversations more than you know, and I am thrilled because I feel like I am building from a healthier foundation. I am so excited. I am in it for the long haul, my friends, and I am building this house out of bricks and prayer, the most solid of foundations. I hope you have a great week, and I certainly hope that within the week, I will be back with a new episode that I'm really excited to share with you as well. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review if you're so willing, and help spread the message of becoming natural by sharing it with a friend. Check out the resources in the show notes and join the email list to stay on top of all the latest and greatest happenings at Becoming Natural as we roll out exciting new things while we grow. Until next time, take those baby steps to a more natural life and always give yourself grace. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. See you next week.